This meeting is being recorded.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome. I am calling the meeting to order. Before we get to the agenda, there's a few items that I'd like to announce. Just like to friendly remind everybody that in order to keep the background noise out, if you could mute yourself if you're not speaking, that would be helpful. We do need to add one item to the agenda, and that's going to go under the town finances reports, the 2021 AUD. Okay, and so before we get to the agenda, I'd like to call a moment of silence for all the people in Ukraine and what's going on, around the world, and the tragedies that are happening. So if we could take a moment of silence to think about those individuals. Okay, thank you, everyone. First item on the agenda is public comment. This is a time for the town board to listen. We ask that if you would like to make public comment, to please identify yourself and where you live and limit it to under 3 minutes so that we can give everybody an opportunity. Is there any public comment? All right, I don't see anyone. Heidi, do you? And before I forget, this is going to be probably our last full Zoom meeting next month. We're looking to go back in person and then Zoom by view only. So I can't wait for that. It's long overdue. The next item on the agenda is county legislative representative updates. I do not see any of our representatives. Heidi, I know that Mr. Akers was not able to make it tonight. I'm not sure if Danny Fay or Joe Lightfoot are here. Heidi, do you see anyone?
No.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes for the regular board meeting of February 9th of 2022. It's in the packet. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Bob Seymour. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jim Smith. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Correspondence. We have two correspondence. They were in your are in the meeting packet. The first one was from the St. Lawrence County Self-Insurance Plan. They are now going to be offering OSHA and PESH training days free of charge. It's for municipalities, rescue squads, and fire departments. And the first session is going to be at the Norfolk Fire Department, April 9th from 9 to 1 p.m. And the following trainings are hazardous materials, respiratory protection, bloodborne pathogen, right to know, workplace violence, and sexual harassment. And that is for, again, municipalities, fire departments, and rescue squads. We already conduct our own workplace violence and sexual harassment training internally. So that was the first correspondence. The second correspondence was from Cheryl Pearson. She is the VFW Post 1231 Auxiliary President. This letter was in the packet. And she's writing in the hope that we will consider helping the auxiliary defray the cost of grave markers and flags that our auxiliary distributes each year. In 2021, they purchased 108 flags and 9 grave markers at a cost of $840. And as you remember, this was a discussion when we were putting the budget together. And I did call Cheryl to let her know that the town is supporting the VFW with a $2,500 allocation for the flags and the grave markers. Another item was that she donated a flag to the municipal building. So very grateful for that as well. So those are the two correspondents. Okay. Town finances report. John?
Thank you, Mary Ann. So general fund A, our revenues are under budget by 417,000, but our expenses are also under budget by 703,000. So we have a surplus of 285,000 for the first 2 months of the year. Town outside B, revenues under budget by 222,000, expenses under budget by 335,000. So a surplus for 2 months of $113,000. No activity in the RBEG account, no activity in miscellaneous special revenue account. Townwide highway, revenues are over budget by $22. Expenditures are under budget by $622,000. So we have a surplus for the 2 months of $623,000. Parktown Highway DB Fund, we are under budget on the revenue side by $738,000, under budget on the expense side by $873,000. So we have a surplus for 2 months of just under $135,000. Special fire, where the budget is received on the revenue side, so we're not under, we're not over. On the expenditure side, we're $180,000 under budget. So we have a $180,000 surplus right now for 2 months. Special lighting, the revenue is $3 over budget. The expenditures are $3,612 under budget. So the surplus is $3,615. So townwide, we're under budget in revenue by $1,378,000. We're under budget in expenditures by $2.7 million. So we have a surplus for the 2 months of $1,340,000. Joint activity, no activity in that fund this month. On the cash report, we presented this a little bit different this month. So we've segregated the cash that's held for special purposes because it doesn't really belong to the town. So at the top of the report, we have general fund cash of $588,000. We have outside fund cash for $429,000. Cemetery cash, $2,540. DA and DB fund cash, $1,616,660. Joint activity, $8,422. Trust and agency, $946. So the subtotal there for town funds is $2,646,500. We have a category now, cash held for special purposes, special fund or special fire and special lighting. We have $194,598 in that fund. The library trust fund, we have $5.70. The revolving loan and housing fund, we have $46,025. The RBEG fund, we have $51,296. The solar escrow fund, we have $133,767. In the American Rescue Act plan cash, we have $217,344. So we have total cash held for special purposes, again, that does not belong to the town, $643,935. And if you add that to the subtotal I presented a minute ago for town cash of $2,646,000, our total cash on hand at the end of February is $3,290,435. You're muted, Mary Ann.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, John. Any
You're
questions
welcome.
from board members? Okay, so I'd like to talk a little bit about the AUD, and then we can go to Heidi's report. So as you know, we have to submit an annual updated document each year by the end of March for the prior year. We contract with Gray and Gray to do that for $2,500, and it's pretty much done. We met today, we went over it. There was a few tweaks to it, but we're ready to submit. And John, did you want to add anything to that? Oh, you're muted.
No, other than the fact that the changes we discussed, the minor changes today have been completed. So I sent a copy to each board member early this afternoon. That is the final version that we will submit to the state, probably tomorrow, certainly by the end of the month. And then we'll wait for feedback from the comptroller's office.
And we don't know how long that will take. As we discovered from our prior one, it took months to get feedback. And so I'm hopeful that it won't take months to get feedback this time, and that we can close that out and then legally notice it for the public to view. So, you know, I appreciate all the work that Gray and Gray has put into that, as well as Dylan Behringer getting all the utilities and the backup data for the report. It's noteworthy to mention that in 2024, it'll be a brand new system to learn. It will be no longer called an AUD. It's supposedly supposed to be easier than what this system is. And so we'll be looking forward to that. Okay, any other questions of John? Okay, thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Okay, would you like to go to Heidi's report, please?
Sure. So on the balance sheet of the town clerk fund, we have cash on hand of $978,000. That's made up of $417 in the fee account and $978,203 for taxes collected. And we owe the town and county $978,203 for those taxes. We owe Ag and Markets $25, Department of Health $22.50. The town for fees to $345.88, and the DEC for decals $23.62. Those all added together equal the amount of cash currently. If we look at the activity for the month, in the decal account, we have income of $1,165 for January and February, not just the month, I'm sorry, 2 months. And we've transferred $1,141.13 to the DEC, transferred $23.87 to the town. So we have total expenditures of $1,165, which is exactly what we took in. In the fee account, we've collected $413 for certified copies, $30 for building permits, $490 for dog licenses, $160 for marriage licenses. And we transferred to the Department of Health $112.50. We transferred to Ag and Markets $78. And we transferred to the town $902.51. On the tax account, we've taken in $670 in penalties, $11,946 in surcharges, and $4,379,798 in town and county taxes, for a total income of $4,392,436. We've transferred to the town, or will soon be transferring to the town, $4,392,436, which is what we've taken in so far this year.
That's to the county, John?
Pardon me?
That's to the county, not the county?
Yes, I'm sorry. Did I say town? I'm sorry. County, yes. So it's just a timing thing that we have that much on hand. Obviously, the clerk's office has been very busy collecting taxes here, so it's just timing that we happen to have things on hand at the end of the month.
Okay, Heidi, would you like to add anything to this report?
No, he covered it pretty well.
Okay. Board members, any questions? Oh, Bob?
I guess, thanks for that, all of that. And I guess I'm curious, how often are we supposed to be sending that money to the county? Is that a monthly thing, every 2 weeks, or a certain amount of money, or just arbitrary decision?
Well, I actually have a letter from the county that I have to send a certain amount at a certain time, or like the next check I'm gonna write is a check for surcharges. They kind of have like a little layout for me that I give them money. And then after I've done the layout, then I just kind of give them money as we continue to collect.
Great, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, thanks, John and Heidi, for that.
Welcome.
All right, audit committee. Bob and Sanamar?
Yeah, I think I have all the information we need. For the audit, for February, the general fund, the expenditures were $33,147.09. For the townwide highway DA count, $38,216.06. For the part town highway, there was 0. For town outside, Fund B, $773.49. For special fire, Fund SF, $62,608.00. For SL or special lighting, $305.77. And the TA or the trust and agency account, the expenditures were $24,031.18. That's all I got.
Okay. Excuse me, Bob Sanamar.
Fire away.
I believe there was one item that was from the DB. Did I miss that you had said that?
Nope. No, there was 0 for DB. There was no money spent in DB.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought we had one item for Brooks Washburn in the
No,
DB
I did
account.
not see anything in there. I don't. No.
Okay. So we'll double check that. And
Okay.
yeah, I think it was for the Brooks Washburn. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. I need a motion to approve expenditures.
So moved. Second.
Oh, I'm not sure which one said which first. We'll go with Jim Smith first and Bob Washoe second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Carried. All right, thank you. All right, department reports. Let's see. Got my list here is Megan Richardson. You're the first one up. Where are you?
Hello.
Hi, Megan.
Hi. Well, my report was pretty short because it's kind of a crazy time, even though the ice season's coming to the end. We're getting ready for a lot of projects this spring. So this past weekend, we hosted a state quarterfinal game between Canton and Suffern. It was, even though Canton didn't win, it was a great day. The whole place was absolutely packed. You couldn't sit anywhere. So it was a lot of fun. Our last day of ice is March 19th, so a week and a half away. And on Monday, after our last ice, our compressor company will be coming to the pavilion to do a proper shutdown of the compressor system. And as soon as it's shut down, they're going to clean and flush all the pipe systems. That's going to break up any debris or blockages that build up over the years. They noticed that it was an issue in the fall when they were there working on the electrical issue and checking valves and stuff like that. They noticed that there was some buildup. So we're going to get those pipes flushed out. And then other than that, we're in full spring mode, really, trying to prioritize tasks to get done, and especially our parks and our playgrounds, because there's a lot of projects that need to be done. So my guys are, just today, we were sitting down talking about where we want to tackle first and what we can do. And of course, it's all dependent on the weather. Today I was able to get into Taylor Park just to check it, make sure nothing crazy was going on. Luckily the water's not too high yet. The ADA launch, that will be paid in full. It's gonna, by the end of the month, it's gonna go out with the village bills this month. So that'll be paid in full. And we're hoping to get that delivered in about the middle of April. So that way we have time to get it properly installed before the canoe weekend. So other than that, if anybody has any questions, happy to answer them. Marianne, you're muted again.
Okay.
There you
Thank you, Megan. Linda Casserly, are you on? Oh, I do see her name here.
Here I am.
Hi, Linda.
Hello, everyone. Start video. Okay, there I am.
Oh,
Yeah.
did I-
My report got in a little late this month because of various reasons that I wrote it down. So if you had time to read it over and do you have any questions, those were only a few of the research projects I'm working on. That's all I could handle for this month. So there are more in my basket. And does anyone have any questions? No one's gonna have any questions about the hangings in St. Lawrence County. That is a project that Connie Molnar helped me with a few years ago. She sent me the 3 men and their stories and their photos. So Mary Jane at the Silas Wright House is waiting for those photos. And I'll be into work on money to get those to her. But they were very interesting stories. They were hung out in the courtyard before the corner building and the jail. And then also I'm working on the National Register. You might have read County Historian Nancy LaFavor's, but we ran into a little glitch. So we've got to work on that. And I just have a lot of work to do when I get back on that.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Board members,
Yeah.
any questions of Linda? All right. Thank you. Let's see, is Lee on? I don't see.
I'm here. My
her.
connection's not the greatest, so if it's a problem, I will turn off my video.
Okay. Hi, Lee.
Hi. I don't have a very big report, but just a few things. On the Stiles Avenue grant, we are still finalizing the budget and work plan on that, but we're close to having a contract from the state on that. And once we do, we'll move forward with an RFP for the design services on Stiles Avenue. We did release an RFP, request for proposals for design work on Willow Island for the Willow Island Park Enhancement Project. We did not receive any bids back. So we've revised that slightly and re-released it. Those are due back on March 31st. The Housing Task Force continues to meet and discuss the housing needs in the community. We have identified the existing programs and in the gaps. And now we're looking to set the priorities and create this strategy towards addressing some of those gaps. The New York Main Street project is moving forward. We have one project underway. As a reminder, there will be 8 buildings that will be renovated, and there's 3 different streetscape projects involved in this grant. We have one project underway. We have several others very close to being ready to go. A couple that need a little bit more time, but we're moving forward with approvals on all those things. And once we get the renovation projects going, we can start to get together the streetscape projects, which I mentioned on here, which include installation of bike parking stations. There'll be 2 bike parking stations downtown, a museum in the streets, and art in the alley between the Pear Tree and Glow. And so we'll be putting together committees on those streetscape projects as well to develop those a little further. application for the village is kind of our big thing on the forefront right now. The village has scheduled a public hearing on March 16th at 6 p.m. before the regular meeting to hear from the public on what they would like to see us include in that application. It's been in the paper. Right now, we're considering things that include assistance for small businesses, expansion of mental health services through United Helpers, and improvement of public facilities. So we're looking to get feedback on that. We did release a survey as well. There was an article that included a link. It's also on our website, asking for feedback about those things and about for any small businesses that would be interested in or assistance as well. The only other thing I have on my report is the Community Forest Management Plan. We do have 2 grants through the DEC for trees. Our Community Forest Management Plan has done a second draft at this point. I think it's very close to being completed for the village, and we'll probably be doing a presentation to the village board in April or May for that. The other one is for the maintenance on in the village green. And a lot of the tree removals were done this fall. 12 tree removals were done this fall, as well as some cabling and crown pruning and crown clearing and pruning work. And this spring, they will be finishing up with aeration and mulching and things like that. And they will also be inoculating 1 ash tree. There was an ash tree that we found, or the consultants found, that could be saved. So they're going to inoculate it rather than remove it. So that's kind of an exciting thing because there won't be many ash trees left. So that's pretty much all I have, unless there's questions.
Thank you, Lee. Board members, any questions of Lee? Okay, all right, thanks. Let's see, how about Cindy?
Hi,
Our
good evening.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first off, Colin McKay, I see we're gonna talk about this later. He gave notice, he's relocating, he's our bar member. And we're gonna be advertising for a new bar member, but I just found out that the bar training class is May 3rd and from 1 to 4 in person, and May 5th from 5 to 8 on Zoom. So I guess if we don't finalize this on the next meeting, then then they'll have to go to for the next bar hearing. I won't be able to have him for the next person for grievance in May, at the end of May 24th is grievance day. So I guess we'll see what happens within that time frame. We had a 3-hour assessment meeting today, and we had a presentation from Pat Kelly from the St. Lawrence County IDA, and he went over with us how they work with the pilots, and they also briefly discussed about the solar development and the IDA and all that. And there was handouts, and I'm going to provide that to on my monthly report next month that they gave me. So I'll be doing that. And there was also a presentation by Matilda Larson from St. Lawrence County Planning Department on the Ag District acceptance during March. So also I'm going to put that in my packet next month in my meeting, in my monthly report. There was a lot of stuff that they handed out. I need another notebook here. At the last minute, I did put on the web in my report. I guess I was just looking to run a report and see what it looked like. And it was a report where I ran the sales from the last reval, which was July 1st, 2009 to present day. And then what I did is I made a column of what the sales were and what the assessments are as of today. So just to guys to look at to see, oh, look, this house sold, for 200,000, it's assessed at 100,000. Just to give you guys an idea of what's been going on here in Canton, and how how the market's been going and everything, and at least over the last since the last reval. So if there's any questions or anything anybody wants, I could can run reports, anything you want, I can do. You just have to request it and give me a couple days and I can do it and get it out to you. So if there was something missing that you really wanted to see, let me know. I'll be happy to do that. But anything after April 8th, because I got to get everything in right now for the tentative roll. And they're giving us a date of April 8th for everything to be entered. So all the permits, all the exemptions, all the changes and everything. So that's it. Anybody have any questions?
I have a question, Cindy. Can you
Okay.
just give us with that data that you just sent, can you just give us like one example of a sales compared to the assessment?
Okay. I don't
You
know if
that's
you
pretty
have access.
significant.
Okay, I don't know if you have access to look at the last page. The very last page of that report, and it's the parcel 88.042-6-3.1, and that's a Sunoco, and it's assessed at 925,000, and it's sold for 2.4 million in June, and then in July of 2018 it sold for 2.9 million. So I'm just showing you what the numbers have been coming in at. So that was an example. And then I took a column, I made the difference, of how much versus sales versus assessment, as far as that's concerned. And like I said, I can't mark these things.
Oh, Cindy, you muted. Oh,
I'm sorry. And
That's
like I
okay.
said, if we do this, we got to do everybody, and that's the guidelines. So I'm going by the guidelines by the state, and how's that? So
okay. Well, thank you for that example. And how many parcels are on that list as far as sales?
There was 1,648 valid sale parcels that I pulled up. Anything that was not valid, like they were like a name change, or there was a life use deed, was $1, there was no sale, but it was a sale, but they had a name change, or it was a transfer, that it was not about, or it was a family involved, or it's a state sale, or it was a foreclosure sale. I didn't put those in. Those are not valid sales. These are the sales that we're looking at when we do our analysis. We're looking at valid sales. So.
All right. Well, thank you for putting that together. That data is telling.
Okay.
Any other board members have any questions? All right. Thank you, Cindy. Let's see, Mike, code enforcement.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Well, with the way the weather was through the month of February, and between the snow and the cold and everything, I did issue one permit for the month of February, and it was for a renovation project on the Mead Road. The property owner purchased it over last year and is renovating it for her son. Some other items, the renovation project at Casanova Equipment is moving forward. The project has turned into more of a total renovation than just the addition that was issued, as they're moving into the old wing of the facility and updating a very aged building. I did a final inspection on the manufactured home on County Route 21 through the month. This started back in August prior to my employment, but finally the project was completed with the necessary final inspection items. The two new construction projects, one on 310 and one on Finnegan Road, are moving along. The one on 310, talking with a contractor, hopes to be finished by the end of this month. He thought he was going to be finished last month, but there was delay in some cabinetry and some finished items. And the one on Finnegan Road, I stopped there early or Monday of this week and spoke to the contractor, and he was doing tile in the bathrooms. The drywall is all hung, and the kitchen cabinets were delivered, and they're moving forward. Other items to note, I think Mr. Washoe discussed it also. We've had 2 meetings last month with Monica, Ryan with River Street Planning on the updating of the town zoning code. We're trying to do it every Monday now. Trying to get it completed. It seems to be going smoothly. There hasn't been very many hiccups. So that's nice. And the last item, we, over the month of February and earlier this month, we received 2 more inquiries for solar arrays in the town of Canton. So that's another hot item in the office for code enforcement, because it's a lot of work. But other than that, that's about it.
All right, thank you, Mike. Board members, any questions of Mike?
If I'm right, Mike, that puts us up to 6. Is that, what is it, 5 community and the 1 large one? Is that
Yes,
where we're
sir.
at?
Yes, sir.
And I'll just concur with Mike that the meetings on the zoning and code update are going great. We've got full participation from the planning board and ZBA, and Lee's been attending, and there's been a lot of, robust discussion about it. So it's been great.
Okay. All right, thanks, Mike. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
All right, Stephen. Highway. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, how is everyone tonight? It's been a pretty busy month of February. We had a lot of wild temperature changes throughout the month that caused a lot of havoc with us, with roads flooding from quick thaws and things like that. A lot of frozen culvert pipes that made a lot of extra work. And then everyone knows the wind has been blowing like crazy the last month to cause a lot of drifting, stuff like that. The crew's been really great. They still have good morale. I figured up today out of the Daily Ledger, and in the last 16 weeks, they've only had 2 weekends where they got both days off. So they've run pretty steady throughout the winter here. But hoping that I'll be getting asphalt bids. The books will be out sometime next month so that we can get forward, with a plan on what roads we want to do construction on, things like that, get going. And the other thing I had down on this was that on February 26th, Fire Chief Dallas Denny reached out to me to bring a piece of equipment over to help with the apartment fire in Rensselaer Falls. But when we got there with a piece of equipment, I determined that it was something that was not safe for our machine, just wasn't big enough to be doing it. So Dallas and I talked about that, and he was perfectly okay with it. He understood, and we moved some barricades in to help close off the street, and took a sand truck over to help with the icy spots. And that's about it, unless someone has any questions for me.
Board member, any questions? All right, well, thank you, Stephen.
Yep, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, I think that covers everybody.
You want me to
Did I
give a report?
Heidi, please, thank you.
Okay, so for the tax collection, it has slowed down in the month of February because the cutoff for your first installment with no penalties, or to get into the first installment fee process and to pay your taxes in full without any penalties. The cutoff date was January 31st. The next deadline is for your second installments, which is March 31st. So it'll be pretty, it'll slow down a lot for tax collecting. So, which is good because we have a lot to do in the town clerk's office. We're so busy with taxes in February and transitioning, we're still working on that. Right now we're working with public health on the 2021 death records and making sure they're over there. And then I'm also going to be working with EDRS to make some corrections on registration numbers for those death records. EDRS was down for a few days because they just updated their system, and EDRS is our electronic death record system, for those that don't know. So records management, I just finished a course that I took in February. I'm excited because I passed it, and so now I'm really excited to start implementing some of the things that I learned in my class here in the office. We will be getting a new server. We don't have a date set yet. When that does happen, the town clerk's office is going to be shut down for roughly 2 hours. It's going to take about roughly 2 hours to transfer our programs over to the new server. Once we know that date, we'll make sure that we post it on the website so that everybody knows. And we're hoping to have that either done first thing in the morning or at the end of the day. We have an upcoming training on March 21st, so the office will be closed so that myself and the deputy can go to that. Not much. So we wrote our December checks in the month of February to the supervisor and all the state agencies that were supposed to get their checks. This was a little late, but it was just due to a little reporting issue for the month of December. I should have reported that when John was giving the report, his report doesn't quite match mine. It's off by $16 because I did overpay the supervisor $16 for the December 2021 local fees. So the supervisor is gonna cut us a check for $16, and then I will give it back with this month's checks. So I think that's all I have.
Heidi, could you comment on the harassment training and where we're at with that?
Yep, there are still a few people that do need to complete that training. I'd say about 50% of us have completed it, but there's 50 more that need to do that. I do have a list, and I just got email today from Marianne that I will forward on to the ones that haven't completed that to make sure we all get that done.
And it is an online training. You have to register, and it takes about an hour, but it is a mandate that everybody, including board members, complete that. So if you could certainly try to get that done, it would be appreciated. And then the next, the training that Heidi and I will be working on is to set up the workplace violence training through Jim Romer's office. As per agreement, they do one training for us. So we want to get that done in April, so that it'll all be done. And these are annual trainings that everybody is mandated to take. So, okay, thanks, Heidi. Any questions, board members of Heidi? All right, thank you very much. I need a motion to accept department reports.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Bob Seymour, second by Bob Washoe. Any further questions or concerns? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Carried. Okay, committee reports. Who would like to start?
I will. Mike pretty much covered the solar part of it. Highway, Matt, Bob and I met with Stephen so we could outline with him the process that we've been using as far as trying to determine what we're going to do with regards to paving this year, and just pretty much going through the process. As Stephen pointed out, we'll be getting together at some point once we have the numbers as to where we're headed with the roads, and we'll include complete streets in that discussion. The other issue with regard to highway, one that is frustrating me big time is negotiations. We met the last time we met with regard to negotiations, I believe was in November. When we left that negotiation session, we were told by union that we need to get back to membership, and we will get back in touch with you. Membership met that afternoon. We've just had all kinds of problems trying to talk with their negotiator, have made contact, been told that, yep, we'll get a meeting together and we'll get a meeting together, and it has not happened. And right now, I don't know of a meeting that is scheduled. So I'm going to request that we discuss this further in executive session if it's possible. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thanks, Jim. I would like to add in on the negotiations. We started this conversation a year ago, last March, to start negotiations so that we could be prepared for budget time. And I'm equally as frustrated of where we're at with this. It's very unfortunate. You know, the goal is to negotiate a fair labor contract, and not sure the reason why it's been stalled like this. So I wanted to add that. All right, thanks, Jim. Any other committee reports? John Tayo?
Let's talk about broadband. We have received the MC Fiber report, and they provided us with an executive summary, service provider inventory, unserved addresses, which amount to 245 in the entire township, and that includes the village. And they also talk a little bit about municipal fiber options. I don't know if any of you saw the news, Channel 7 News, Watertown's talking about it. Apparently Jamestown out in Western New York is moving forward towards that as well. Anyway, our committee still has more questions after receiving this report, and we're meeting with MC Fiber on March 22nd. I do have a hard copy of their report, and I will leave it in the town clerk's office so you can all look it over at your leisure. And please let us know if you have any questions that we can raise with the McAdoo's on the 22nd. Toby, do you have anything else you want to add?
I would just say that we characterize that report as the draft, which is what the McAdoo said it was, so that we have an opportunity to correct errors or enhance the data that's presented. So it is a draft report, and nothing about it is final at this time.
Thank you, Toby. And as long as I'm talking, I was gonna talk about recreation, but I don't feel we need to because we have an item later in the agenda in regard to recreation. So I don't have anything there, but thank you.
So as far as the broadband report, is that a large report? And is that just for the board to review at this point? It's not for public view at this point because we haven't even, you know, it hasn't even been put on as an agenda item. So can you clarify that, John?
We're not at that point yet to really, like Toby just said, it's just a draft. And we do have more questions that need to be answered before we get to that point.
Okay. So is it a large document that we could scan and send to the board's members?
I have it on a flash drive. I can do that.
That would be helpful.
Yep, I will do that. Yep.
Okay, great. All right, any other questions for John on the broadband? Again, thank you and Toby and Anna for all the work on that. We appreciate that. Any other committee reports? All right, I'll just add one. The Economic Development Consortium did meet on Monday. It was a very good meeting. It was a little over an hour. And those are the principals that invest in our economic development program. It went very well. David Acker, the CEO of St. Lawrence Health Systems, is retiring at the end of May. And so we recognized him as well. Okay. All right, old business. The first item on the agenda is the Deputy Town Clerk waiver of residency local law. We had a public hearing last month. It was tabled until this month. We did receive a correspondence from Heidi this afternoon, and it was forwarded to, let me see, Eric, you're on here. Let's see, Eric. And did you have some feedback about that?
Yeah, Mary, I did email the board earlier. You know, the correspondence, if we're going to get into the specifics of the individual, should probably be discussed in executive session. But, you know, realistically, I don't think there's anything that changes, you know, this board's authority to act. I mean, legally, it's your discretion. So.
Okay, but it's your recommendation that we go into executive session to further discuss?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna talk about the specifics of an individual, I think, you know, if we're gonna talk generically about the position, it's more of an open session thing. But if we're gonna talk about the specifics of an individual, then I think we need to do that in executive session.
All right, board members, anybody else? Oh, Bob Sanamore?
I know that a number of folks have had concerns about the language and how that was written. And I looked at a couple of other towns that have already done this, Potsdam being one of them. And looking at that, I've got some language that I like to read with folks and see if they're okay with it. And see what we can do with that before we go into executive session, if that's okay. Everybody okay with that?
Well, there's two issues. Heidi sent us a specific correspondence, so that could be executive session. If other board members are in agreement, then we can let Bob proceed with what he has to say.
I would like to hear what Bob has to say.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bob.
So under the waiver of residency requirements, I suggest that we change it to this. The person holding the office of Deputy Town Clerk in the town of Canton need not be a resident nor an elector of the town of Canton, provided, however, that such person shall reside in the county in which such town is located within the state of New York. This waiver shall terminate at the end of the current town clerk's term or terms of office, whichever is greater. Basically, what that creates is a sunset law. Thoughts?
Well, for me, I'd like to think about Heidi's letter, and then I'd like to think about what you just proposed, right? There's a lot to think about for me. Other board members?
Bob, did you say that the waiver would be in effect for the term of the clerk or the term of the deputy clerk?
Because the clerk appoints the deputy clerk, it would be the term of the clerk.
So as long as the clerk is there, however many deputies that he or she may appoint, this waiver would be in effect until that clerk is gone, is what you're saying? And it's not going to be a waiver only for the current, or who the deputy is right now. We're not going to be doing this case by case. You're saying that it's going to be up to the clerk to then decide whether the person that the interview is from the town or not. Basically what you're saying. The waiver will last the term of the elected town clerk, and it's not going to last, and it won't be lasting only for as long as this deputy clerk is employed in the county, with the county Canton. What you're saying.
If I think what you're asking, and I'm hoping I'm interpreting this correctly. So if, in this particular case, if Heidi, let's say Heidi's not reelected, then it goes back to the original, it goes back to New York State law. Okay.
Okay.
So if Heidi's elected again, then the same, in effect, the person in the position stays. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see where you're going there. And what I'm saying is that if Heidi appoints a deputy clerk that requires the waiver, if that deputy clerk, for whatever reason, resigns, then the waiver stays in force, and they can still, the long and the short of it is, like I said, I don't have a problem talking about it. We're in the situation that we're in because of people not knowing really what the law was. And so we're in a position of trying to decide whether we want to do the waiver to keep the person that is in the position there. And I understand that. But if for some reason that person decides to resign or whatever, I think I would feel more comfortable if we went back to following the letter of the law.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, then if the current deputy resigns or for whatever reason terminated, then it goes back.
I would prefer that, because the waiver is not for, it seems to me the waiver is not for the position of town clerk. The waiver is for the position of deputy clerk. And if the deputy clerk is gone, I'd say so goes the waiver. Whereas I think the way you're reading it, that the waiver stays as long as the town clerk stays.
I'm actually not opposed to how you're thinking. So if the current deputy leaves for whatever reason, I think we can come up with language that states that. And then it does sunset at the time the current deputy leaves. Is that what you're getting at, Jim?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Well, in effect, it would sunset for both, because the deputy works at the pleasure of the clerk. If the clerk were to leave, the deputy leaves with them, and then if the deputy leaves, you're saying then we go to the sunset law.
Right.
So either way, there would be a change.
Yep.
I guess the question then for Eric is, from a legal standpoint, even though, we see other towns do things all the time, and maybe they haven't been tested in court, and just because they have it on paper doesn't necessarily mean that it's completely kosher either. People make all sorts of moves. So I still, if we do come up and want to discuss other language, I'd want to make sure that it would be defensible.
If I may, in 1983, this was actually challenged in the town of Mamaroneck. I don't know where that is, but it was challenged in 1983 And the Attorney General at that time said it was legal to do it.
Point of reference, Mamaroneck is in Westchester County.
Oh, thanks, John.
Yeah, Mamaroneck. I have a friend there.
So anyways, that's my recommendation. So, and I'm okay with changing it the way Jim's suggesting.
So it sounds like, a proposal's been made, that we've been asked to consider, and I need to see it in writing. Eric suggested we discuss further in executive session, so it sounds like this item is tabled for now until we can see something in writing and get legal counsel. Are board members in agreement with tabling this item until we can see something in writing and have further discussion with legal counsel?
I'm comfortable with that.
As am I.
So John, Tayo, and Bob Sanamore agrees with tabling it.
I'm okay.
Jim?
Yeah, I mean, is
Bob
that a motion to table it, or are we, what are we doing here?
As far as I
I'll
know, it's still on the table. I would think all she has to do is remove it from the agenda. Nobody's made a motion to do anything that I.
Right. So,
Okay. So it looks like we're not taking action tonight on this item. All right, we'll go from there. All right. Thank you, everybody. The next item is to approve an amended lease agreement with Michael's Power. Just a little bit backdrop. We have subleased Styles Ave property. We're going on the third year, and they're looking to stay for one more year. We do have a current agreement, but we've been asked to amend it. And Bob Washoe, is there anything that I'm missing if we want to further discuss that, or wait until after executive session? To me, the terms were pretty clear on what they've requested and that what we've possibly agreed to.
yeah, there are a couple late emails on that, but yeah, the original lease agreement with Michael's allowed for a 1-year extension. So this is their request for that 1-year extension. They don't need the full property, which actually works in our favor because that will allow us to continue to brainstorm what we want to do with it eventually when we take full control. Eric made a good point in his email that, and we did pick up on this, that there is not language in there that would grant us access to the back half of the property, since Styles Ave is currently our only access in there. So I made a suggestion in the email that we adopt the language tentatively, including Eric's statement on the right of way, and we adopt that tentatively. And then I spoke with Martin from Michael's this morning, and how they would like to see it go is if we are approving tonight, Mary Ann, you would let them know, they would initiate a lease for you to sign. So I think we have time to include Eric's statement on the right of way before you have to sign it, if that makes any sense. And I don't know, we have an email, and Jim and I discussed the right of way, and we agree with Eric that it would be good to get there and get that in writing. So.
Okay.
I'm willing to make a motion to extend the lease agreement with including Eric's statement on the right of way, and authorize the supervisor to get in touch with Michael's and execute that extension.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further Any further discussion or comments? So I would like it to be on the record that we have been getting $3,000 a month and that the agreement is going down to the 2,600. Just so that everybody knows what that change is. Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, so we'll get that done. Thanks, Eric, for checking that out and making that suggestion. And it doesn't seem possible that this has gone by so fast when we made this agreement. We're very grateful. It's really helped the taxpayers. So, okay, the American Rescue Plan funds. We need to start having some serious discussion on how you want to spend that money. So I'm opening it up to the board. We have received 217,000. We expect to receive another 217,000 this summer. The funny part is when we first received it, there was all these restrictions on the money. Now with the final rule, the restrictions have been widened. You know, I'd like to have a discussion. What do you think we should spend the money on and how? Anyone? And if you're not ready to discuss it, that's fine too. We already have committed to the $4,000 for the broadband study that was done. And 50% of that will be paid for by the village as well. Out of the ARPA money.
How much
Well,
time,
nice
Mary,
surface
do we
area.
have to spend it?
Oh, excuse me?
How much time do we have to allocate it out?
Oh, I don't know, 3 to 4 years. But again, the rules keep changing. And the biggest thing that's coming up right now is we have to report on it to the U.S. Department of Treasury where we're at by the end of April. So even if we don't spend any, we still have to do all that reporting. So we're studying up on that.
Well, I know it's a further out agenda item, but can we spend this in our share of the Zamboni?
I believe we can.
That would be one of my suggestions. Because, you know, the item, we have the item of the, we have the purchase of the Allstate's property, but that's a case where that money is going to come out of the A account because that's a town-wide purchase. This, you know, the village gets their own allotment of rescue money. And so if we use that money towards that purchase, then basically what we're doing is handing over half of that to the village when they have their own pot to deal with. The purchase of Zamboni is a B item, and so therefore we would be using that part to offset, and that would, so that because this is town outside money, that's, and our share of the Zamboni is going to be town outside money, I would make the suggestion to that the whatever our share of, you know, that, what is it, 60,000, somewhere in that range, that at least that much be used towards that purchase. But we got the cart a little bit before the horse because that's later on in on the agenda.
Okay.
I like Jim's thoughts on these. Matter of fact, I was going to raise that same thing when we got to it on the agenda.
Yeah, I don't disagree using money that's intended for the B account because the village is ponying up also out of their own pockets. And the only thing I would add to Jim is both villages and the town get ARPA money. It's not just the village of Canton.
I also agree.
Yeah, the other, and I guess another item, which is, well, hard to talk about, but it's still in the works, which is going to be another B item, is the McDonald's property. And so right now, we don't know where we're at with that. But if we can hold on to those monies, again, there would be enough of that money to pay for our share of that. So again, we're not looking at having to take money out of fund balance to provide our share of that purchase also.
I agree with that one also, because same deal. The village is going to be digging into their pocket, so it's got to come out of B. And we still have the issues of raising the, cleaning the property up. So we don't know where that's going to be once the current owner is done with their responsibilities. So I think we need to be prepared to have some money set aside so that once we do execute that transaction, we could actually follow through with the cleanup as well.
Bob Santamar?
I guess I want to be sure that real estate purchases are a part of that.
Are part of the ARPA money? It's kind of interesting. They were so restrictive. Now it's wide open. And it's kind of crazy, but yeah. And the what the real funny part is, we don't even have to show under the final rules where we lost the revenue. We don't have to show it, although we can show it. The town of Canton, we've lost about 156,000 in 2021, but now it's not even a requirement.
Well, I think it's easier to make a case that expanded municipal office space and just being able to have some elbow room is much more ARPA related than an ice resurfacer. So I think that's an easy case to make.
And what I would like to do is we really should create a capital plans policy and start investing in that in the budget. Because we know that we need a new municipal building and we really need to start getting really serious about that. And so, if we could encumber money either out of fund balance or the ARPA, that's a good thing to do. So, okay. Well, it sounds like we got some ideas. All right. Thank you, everybody. Okay. The joint recreation ice resurfacer. So this is where we're at. Let me just get my numbers here. So it is being recommended by the committee, the Joint Recreation Committee. John and I sit on the committee, Carol Pinchon and Beth, and Megan Richardson, the Recreation Director, has done her due diligence above and beyond with research. And there's been a lot of discussion, and the committee did vote to recommend the ice resurfacer, the Olympia. The total cost of that is $116,925, and it needs to be ordered. And when it's ordered, 20% needs to be put down on that with the order. So that's a $23,385 item. And then split between the town and village, that would be $11,925 for this year, just to order it. And then the next year, the balance would be budgeted for. John Tile, you're shaking your head.
The actual number for our half of that 20% is $11,692.50.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So Heidi, did you get that number? Because I gave you.
Could you just say it one more time for me?
John.
$11,692.50.
All right, thank you. Okay, so Megan, you're still on? Is there anything you would like to add? Or do board members have any questions about this recommendation or of Megan? We did have serious discussion about electric vehicles, and we're just not there yet. Megan, did you want to add in?
Yes, we did talk about the electric aspect. And I think if we had a crew member either on DPW or town highway that could work on an electric engine, electric motor, we would be way advanced, and we'd be able to, really be able to take care of this machine ourselves in-house. But yeah, we had a great discussion. We talked about it. We went back and forth with it. We made a decision. Clarifying the price just for the add-on. So the reason why the price is a little bit higher than the base price is putting in a custom side dump, which dumps on the driver's side. That is because of the way that the building is set up. That's where our drain is on the left side. Our current one is the left side. And also, I was very pleasantly surprised that we were able to order a custom 80-inch blade model. The new ones come standard as an 84, but it was nice that we were able to get an 80 because that's what we have currently. So that means we only have to have one set of blades. Blades are very big, they're very bulky. You think 80 inches wide and they're 6 inches, 80 by 6 inches, and it's solid steel. So that's going to clean up the storage unit a lot. And it'll be nice to be able to have universal blades for both machines. So that will be nice. And other than that, if anybody has questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Warranty work, with a propane model, we have 2 complete years of warranty. So in the words of our dealer, that's 2 full years. It covers parts, labor, travel, freight, all for parts. So we don't pay anything out of pocket for 2 years. We are able to work on any warranty work. The only time that they would actually come out and do the work is if it was something major, like something happened with the motor or anything like that. They would send somebody out and take care of it for us.
Board members, any questions?
I make a motion to approve the purchase.
Okay, there's
second.
a motion by Jim Smith. There's a second by Bob Sanamore.
And we talked about this a lot. Last month, Megan did a very thorough presentation with regard to it. I had some questions at that meeting that she was very good about responding to. And we can talk about this a long time, but I'm pretty sure this is going to happen. So I make the motion to move forward with it.
Okay, so now this is up for discussion. We have a first and a second. So my question is, where would the funding come from? I think that needs to be part of the motion. Again, $11,692.50 for this year, and then the balance for next year.
Didn't we already talk about it coming from the ARPA funds?
The B account, yeah.
So transfer our, I heard 2 different things. Bob, you said the B account.
Well, transfer money from ARPA into the B account and pay it out of the B account.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
agree.
do you want to modify your motion, Jim? On that, or just that can be?
Just add that to it as to where the money's coming from. It'll be a good test. Be a good test of whether we can do this or not. And we haven't spent a lot of money.
I believe the village is using ARPA money as well for their half. So we'll transfer that money this year, the $11,692.50, and then budget the rest, the balance in the 2023 budget using ARPA funds.
So this is going to go through. This is going to go through the village, right?
Yes.
So is there?
Well,
is
we
there-
need an MOU. We need
right.
an
So
MOU.
we're gonna have an MOU with the village, and this is all going to be laid right out. Okay.
Yes, it has to be. Yeah, before we. Yeah. So I'll let the mayor know that as well. And I'm sure the MOU will be pretty simple. So, okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, we know where the funding's coming from, and we need an MOU from the village before any, so Is the board authorizing me to sign that MOU as well?
Yes.
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 Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried. Okay, Megan, we finally got there. So,
Thank-
but again, we need the MOU signed by the mayor and I, before you place that order, all right? And so,
I'll have it 8 o'clock in the morning. So
well, I think the mayor's back, so, we'll definitely catch him and get that done, okay?
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you. Okay, very good. All right, the 2021 board audits of supervisor, town clerk, and tax collector. We need to discuss this because court, for the past 4 years, we've had board members audit the 3 departments. This year, court has been completed by the court committee, and we need to talk about my office as well as Heidi's office on how you want to move forward with this. You know, we have in the past it's been recommended by Eric. Well, he's really advised us to hire an outside firm to do a full audit. We've never budgeted for it. You're talking $10,000 to $15,000, but we got to get the other ones done now. So I'm opening it up for board discussion on what you want to do, how you want to proceed. Again, you know, there's the form. It's not an actual audit. John Gray and I have had this discussion. It's several times. It's not a full-blown audit. It's a review of records, and we fill out this form every year, and then we say it's done. John Gray, did you want to add anything on that?
No, you're absolutely right. It's not an audit. An audit, it will be a $20,000 bill if we do an audit of the town, in my opinion. This is a review of the records to make sure everything looks in order. In my opinion, it's what we would call an agreed upon procedure in my business. I just think we have to be careful when using that term audit, because the public's hearing audit and everybody else is hearing audit. And we're so far from an audit, it's like black and white.
No,
I know we use that for the bills too, that we're auditing the bills. I'm not sure where those terms came from, but they're not accurate in my opinion.
They're antiquated at this point, and I think we ought to revise our vocabulary on those things. I agree.
Yeah, so again, these forms, we've used them for the last 4 years, and you know, I mean, I would like to get this done for this year and then budget next year for an actual audit, but we would go out for an RFP towards the end of the year so that we could have it all in order before 2023 starts.
Have we ever actually gone through a town financial audit at any, as a norm?
You mean a full-blown audit?
Portions.
The comptrollers, you know, they did that audit way back in 2017, but that was just for payroll for a certain amount of time. A full-blown audit, not since I've been here. Bob Washoe, you've been here longer.
At that time in 2017, Bob, we requested a full audit, and the comptroller basically, they looked at the finances and they flagged what they thought was the highest priority for the town, and that's what they came in and audited. So they never met our request of a full audit, and that's what we had sent in a letter to them. But they chose to only pick payroll and pension because those were the highest priority and the most vulnerable given the situation. But in my mind, I still think it's a good idea.
Well, I've always depended on outside agencies auditing my books. And not because I'm looking for something nefarious and not because I'm trying to catch somebody on something, but because I want to be sure that procedurally, we're doing everything the right way in the way we should be according to OSC. And I agree with you, Bob. I think that, you know, for this year, Marianne, we do what we can do with the documents from OCS. But I think next year we figure out a way to pay for an outside auditing firm to come in and actually audit all the books. I think it's smart. I think it puts us in a great stance at the end of the day. And if we need to change procedures in terms of how we're doing our finances, then that's a good way to do that. So I would actually recommend doing exactly that. So in 2023, you know, the beginning of 23, we'll audit the 22 books. Actual audit, not, you know, review.
John Gray, you want to say something?
Yeah, the terminology that they use is an independent third-party certified audit. There's only one person in the world that can do that, and that's a licensed CPA. Our firm does not do that work by choice, but many firms do. Audits are becoming more and more less frequent, but it's certainly a good practice. It's been accepted that way for years, but it's not like you hire someone off the street to do an audit. A true independent audit can only be done by a licensed CPA.
The state used to do.
Go ahead,
the
Jim.
the state used to do them more frequently. In the 8 years that I was supervisor, we had 2. And they were by the state of New York. They did 2 complete audits. Over the next 12 years, I believe there was only 1. And then after that was the one that we requested, which was a full blown, that, as Bob said, only turned it, it only ended up doing payroll, some other stuff. I mean, it's not unlike other things that have happened with the state. I mean, we can go back to assessing. At one point, the state was adamant that we did a reval like every 3 years, at the most 5. And they were so adamant about it that when you did one, they would pay you $5 a parcel for the very first year that you did one. For the very first year, they'd pay you $3 a parcel the second year if you did one, and they'd pay you $2 a parcel the third year. Then if you wanted to skip a year, all right. But then if you had another reval, they'd start that cycle over. All of a sudden, they stopped doing that, would not contribute anything. And now we end up with, like a lot of other towns, you know, we were all on a cycle to do them, and they were kept current. And now that gets us in a situation where the last one that was done in Canton was 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, but the other thing that would happen if we started doing annual audits, and it's always something that I've been nervous about, is, well, again, these are elected offices, and the supervisors elected, the clerks elected, the justices are elected. And I always think it'd be good practice for whoever is coming in to replace any of those can come in feeling comfortable that an audit has been done. And so when they take over, whoever that person is, when they take over, they know they've got clean books to work with, because otherwise it always ends up being questionable.
Bob Washoe?
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that at the same time that we requested a full audit from the comptroller's office, because there were issues that we needed a better view of, we also took our bookkeeping and our finances from behind a closed door and hired a CPA firm so that we had a third party actually reviewing our books in real time, and a firm that's beholden to the truth and not loyal to anything but the numbers. And so I really feel like that was a big step in bringing the books from the shadows and actually having a CPA at our meetings reporting the numbers. And I'm not saying it needs to end there, but I'm saying those were steps that have been taken towards that end of making sure there's full transparency and reliable numbers for people that to work with.
Bob Sanamore?
So there is one thing I just want to be careful that we don't do. If we decide to do this, when we look at our scope, when we do the RFP, we make sure that in that RFP, as an example, the Office of Court Administration won't allow anyone to see, just because of the nature of the confidentiality, won't allow folks to be able to see some of that information. So we have to be sure that we're keeping in line with the state organizations that actually perform audits on the side in and of themselves, so that we're not saying that, CPA is going to audit the books of the Justice Court because the OCA already does that. And under confidentiality rules, we can't touch that.
Well, how have we been doing it? We've been, we get that letter from the state every year and we have to fill out that form. So that form is public and it is sent back.
I think Mike can probably answer that.
Justice Morgan and, Justice Foster, you're both here. Welcome. Hello. Mike, do you
Hello.
want to?
Yes, I'll just discuss it. I mean, John Gray, he said it correct, that it's not a true audit. The reason that the court started doing this with the towns was because the court wanted to make the towns know how much they were getting, making sure that they got the right check and the amount that they were supposed to get. And so they started doing the audits. And we call it an audit. It's not a true audit. All it shows is what was written to the town. The only thing the town can see, because it's the program is SCI, and it has confidential information in there. So the only thing the town would be able to look at are the bank statements of money that was deposited into the bank and the check written to the town supervisor each month. So really, in my opinion, I mean, you can go ahead and do that. You can have someone check it. But really, it's not anything more than a town board member could do. And I think, in my opinion, you're wasting money to pay someone to do it, that a town board member can be able to look at those books. And then on top of what we submit each month, the 4th Judicial District, which is this district for this court, they do an audit as well. And they look for anything that might be out of the ordinary, on top of the comptroller, when the comptroller gets the paperwork as well. So it's almost like a 3-phase kind of system that they've set up. I know that there have been monies taken from other townships by people, in the courts and in other offices. Years ago, when everything was kept in a ledger, everything is done on a computer now, and much more difficult to hide that than it used to be. And I think that's because of that. That's why they've done that. So I just want to let you know that's the biggest side of this, is that with SCI and being confidential information, you're not going to get much to do.
Justice Morgan, when do those usually occur? It's an annual event that they audit your.
No, it's every month.
Every month.
Every month.
Okay. Every month.
Every month.
Okay.
So
That's good
when
to
the
know.
town board members come up, we send that letter out. We have to by law. We have to open up our bank account statements to the town board. The judicial committee looks at it. And that's what they get to see. They get to see our last check number, how we do it, how we collect fines, and then what checks were written to the town supervisor and the amounts. That's what they get to see. And that's all anybody, any agency or CPA that looked at it, that's all they'd get to see. It's not a true audit, but it was never meant to be, really. They just call it that.
Okay, thank you. So back to the very beginning. Do we want to complete the board members doing the audits for 2021? And then we budget for full-blown audits for 2023. And put an RFP together and try to get that out this summer. I'm looking for feedback from board members.
Well,
Motion to do
I'd say let's scrap the term audit and let's go with financial records review. And I'm happy to be paired with somebody to review the records of one of the two remaining offices.
Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess we'll have to figure out who's going to do which offices. But if we can get that done by next month, that would be great. Okay, so I'll follow that up.
Can I just say something? We have our committees that review the bills. So why don't John and I do the supervisor of the clerk's office, and Bob and Jim are on a reviewing committee. They could review the other office. Just keep the teams together.
Everybody okay with that?
It makes sense.
Yes, that's fine.
And, since I'm the deputy supervisor, maybe it's best that John and I do the clerk's office and Bob and Jim could do Mary Ann's office. Done?
Everybody good with that?
Works for me.
That's fine.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the Canton Comprehensive Plan. I asked y'all what your priorities are this year. I did ask departments to think about that so that there can be some focus. We're doing a lot now, and those are our priorities. But remember, we have this comprehensive plan. We spent a lot of money on it. It was between the two villages and the town. And this is in your packet. And what I asked Heidi to do is we just took out the town goals out of this plan and put that in your packet as well. And I'd like everybody to review this again. This is our plan, right? And we need to not keep it on a shelf. I did talk to Lee about this to see if the Economic Development Steering Committee can start looking at it and saying, okay, these are our goals. Where are we at? What have we done? Where are we going? And certainly a lot has changed, right? Since we did this way back in October of 2019. But this is our plan. And we have other plans. We have the Trails Plan and the Blue Way Plan. And we really, I know one thing, I'm going to just keep this on my desk, just as a reminder that this is what we said we were going to do. So I open that up. Bob Washoe, you have your hand up.
Yeah, as a reminder, we have a committee who's doing the mandated state follow-up of reviewing the zoning and code to support what that plan says. So that was the highest priority post comp plan adoption, was to do the zoning and code review that is currently underway. So we're doing the things that, in my opinion, that needs to be done first. And that's fulfilling the state mandate.
Okay. Anybody else? All right.
I co-chaired the comp plan, and I'm on this new zoning committee thing, and understand too that when the comp plan, when it was approved about 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was, we didn't anticipate when we put the comp plan together that we're going to have 2.5 or 3 years of pandemic. But one of the things that I'm starting to believe is that I'm starting to think that we might have done this backwards. And when we started the comp plan, we were told right up front that, we do this comp plan and we put it together, we're going to have to do our zoning we're going to have to do a zoning update so that whatever you've got in the comp plan can comply with your zoning. And I'm starting to believe, I may be wrong, anybody else can comment, but I'm starting to believe that we should have done our zoning update first. And then because we as a local group of people would have been able to decide what we want for zoning in and around the town of Canton, the outside anyway, and then put our comp plan together, keeping in mind the way we're zoned. I may be wrong on it, but in working on both of them, I find that it's, I just seem to think we did it backwards.
I don't intuitively, I don't think you're wrong, but I get why they do it the way they do, because you're not going to get, we did get public feedback on the zoning changes, and those are on a map on bubbles in the comprehensive plan. And what we're doing now is taking the narratives from the comprehensive plan, all of the ideas that people had, and making sure that the maps that we have support the vision that the community laid out in the comprehensive plan. So I get from an easy, it would have been easier for us to have done it that way, but I get why they set it up the way they do. It doesn't make it any easier, but.
No, yeah, I guess, but I think we are coming up, in at least the discussions we're having right now, we're coming up against some hardships with our zoning plan that are a result of our comp plan. And even with our zoning, you know, we can't pass a new zoning law without having public input. We're going to get feedback. We've got to have a public hearing. And I just, you know, from what I'm seeing, the way this is going is, I trust we'll get there, but, you know, I think it's a little more difficult to do what we're doing right now because of the comp plan, as far as I'm concerned.
And I agree with you too, Jim. Who would have thought this pandemic would have lasted this long? You know, we all got hit. And then who would have thought the amount of solar coming in as well? I think we've done a great job, and I'm just encouraging all of our departments to take a look at that comp plan as well, and keep that in your mind as we move forward. Okay, anything else on the comp plan? There are goals. Okay, great. Thank you. The next item is the Canton Senior Citizens Contract. You all have seen it. And what this is between the Joint Recreation Program and the Village and Town of Canton. Every year we fund, the village pays the bill, and then we fund $1,885 for the Canton Senior Citizens Program. But we've never really signed the contract. The town hasn't. So now it's a three-way signature between the village, the town, and the Canton Senior Citizens. So we have allocated $1,885 for this program. So I need a motion to allow the supervisor to sign this contract.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Jim.
Okay, so any further questions or concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried. All right, thank you. All right, new business. We need to set a second notice tax collection fee. We've done this in the past, and I don't know if Heidi, you want to add to it, but it's a $2 tax collection fee if we have to send a second notice on people about their taxes. Is that correct, Heidi?
Correct. I did talk with the county. So this is something that we would put on our annual a board meeting. The town can choose the amount that they want, and the town has done $2 in the past. So once, you know, if the town decides to do that, I send a letter on to the county, and then all the people that get a second notice fee. But this is to people who have not paid anything at all. Like if you paid at least your first installment, you won't get a letter. And I think that's roughly 361 people for the town of Canton at this point who have not made any payments for their taxes.
And like Heidi said, we're gonna put this on the organizational meeting agenda, and so then we don't have to think about it. It'll just be an automatic agenda item. So I need a motion to set a second notice tax collection fee of $2.
So moved.
So moved by John Tyler, second. Second by Bob Washoe. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried. All right. Thank you, Heidi. All right. Board of Assessment Review resignation. Colin Mackey is going to relocate, and he did send an email February 22nd that he will be resigning from the Board of Assessment Review. We appreciate Colin serving on the bar, and so we do have an open seat as well. So he has resigned.
I'd like to thank Colin for his service since I've been here.
Oh, is that Cindy?
I said I'd like to
Okay.
thank Colin for his service. So,
Okay. And we do too.
okay.
And we have put an ad out looking for planning board alternate and someone for the bar and the zoning, the ZBA. Bob Washoe, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just wondering, have we've gotten much feedback from that press release?
No, none.
Okay.
None.
Yeah, then I think that with the other boards and the vacancies, I think it behooves everyone to try to bring somebody to the table and try to bring them in, because if the ad's not working, we still need the people, and so we should be asking and trying to get some folks lined up for these openings.
I agree. All right, so thank you very much to Colin Mackey. The next item is the planning board alternate appointment. Bob, you had, so we do have someone interested. Eric Barr is interested in serving on the planning board as an alternate. And we instituted alternates a few years ago so that if somebody does leave, it would be an automatic that person can move up. Bob Washoe, would you like to speak to this? All right.
No, other than I highly recommend them. I've spoken with the planning board chair. They're excited to have Eric on board, and I wholeheartedly support his appointment.
All right. Would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion to appoint Eric Barr as an alternate to the planning board.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Carried. Okay. So Heidi will talk about contacting him and the proper procedure to get him moving forward. And we,
And just remember to copy in the planning board chair so that Deb's in the loop on all that, please.
absolutely. All right. Thank you. All right. Part-time court clerk resignation. This is for the record. Mary Curran has resigned as the part-time court clerk effective January 31st. And again, here we have another person that has been with us, and we sincerely appreciate all her service in the court. Justice Morgan or Rochelle, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, she was wonderful. She just brought a lot of knowledge to the court. I mean, she has 30 years of even higher court experience. And so she was invaluable getting forms ready for us to send out, getting stuff ready for the judges. She was great. We're definitely going to miss her.
I agree. She was a wealth of knowledge and a great asset to have.
Well, we've certainly appreciated her service and wish her well in future endeavors, and go from there. Okay. The next item is part-time court clerk appointment. Again, we advertised for that position. I worked with the justices about the ad, and they received applications, conducted interviews, and appointed Aaron Armstrong as a part-time court clerk at $20 an hour, up to 19 hours a week. Again, justices, would you like to say anything to that appointment?
Erin came to us with prior court experience, which was nice. So very little training will be needed to get her up to speed. She came from a court that's much smaller than ours. So the volume of paperwork is probably a little overbearing to her at first, but she's coming along really well. And so far we've been very impressed with what she's done.
I had court today and things went very smoothly. It's great having someone that is familiar with the forms, the suspension forms, any of the documents that we need done. She completed them very quickly and efficiently, and I think she's going to be great.
Okay, so that appointment, she started on 2/22/22, I believe. Yeah, so we welcome her. All right, the next item is discussion of addition of full-time court clerk position. So I don't know if the court committee wants to discuss this again about a recommendation or where we're at in this process. Bob Sanamore, you have your hand raised.
I do. I do believe that this is important after a discussion with justices. I think that having a full-time court clerk is important for loyalty. It's important for good collaboration, for consistency, and knowledge. And the folks who've been there, they can, if they're part-time, they might not be there later, and then they take that information away. So having a full-time individual there, I think, give them some stability. And I think it also gives a tremendous amount of stability to both justices, and they know they can depend on that individual to do what needs to be done. So I strongly recommend having a full-time court clerk going forward.
Bob Washoe?
I mean, are we talking about a second full-time clerk? Because we do have one full-time clerk already, correct?
We do. And what we budgeted at the request of the justices, 2 part-time positions for 2022. So I believe that they want to take, and I'll let them speak to it, take those 2 positions and make it into 1 full-time position. John Tayo, did you want to add in?
I was just going to concur with what Bob Sanamore said.
Okay, so in order to do that,
I think Mike wanted to speak, Mary Ann.
Oh, Judge Morgan?
I was just going to say that if we budgeted for, or you guys budgeted for 2 part-time clerk positions. And so our suggestion to the Judicial Committee was to make the 2 part-time, combine those 2 for a full-time clerk position.
Okay. So in order to do that, there is additional monies. And what we would have to do is do a budget amendment at our next meeting. If the board supports moving forward to combine this into 1 position. We budgeted $34,580, and then with the retirement and the Social Security, and it depending upon the health insurance needs, we got to look at how much additional money that's going to cost. So my recommendation is that we table this, and we need to come up with a resolution to be able to expend the additional money and where it's going to come from, and then what the exact needs are. So that's going to take some time. Bob Washoe?
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking out loud here. Since I've been on the board now a little over 6 years, courts have ramped up, and I understand that government is evolving, our municipal needs are evolving, and COVID is really throwing a lot of things a curveball. But you know, I guess I don't know enough about the day-to-day operations today versus how they were 2 or 3 years ago. So does it make any sense? I mean, just to do some sort of time study of that department, just to get a better handle on the exact need, because it seems to be evolving pretty quickly from going from one full-timer to a part-timer, 2 part-timers, 2 full-time. That's all evolved pretty quickly. And I guess I personally don't have a good handle on the exact need or how the justices are engaged in the office relative to justices previously. And so I guess in a lot of businesses, time studies are an accepted practice to really evaluate the needs so everybody understands it from a standardized position. And I'm just throwing that out there. Is that something that we should be thinking about?
Bob Sanamore?
So we've budgeted basically 38 hours a week for a part-time, 2 part-time positions. So because we budgeted that amount, if we change that to a full-time position, that drops it down obviously to 35 hours a week instead of 38. In addition to that, those 3 hours a week, which is 152 hours a year, translate to somewhere north of $3,000. So I don't know that we need to actually budget more money for the full-time position. In fact, I'm fairly sure that it'll save us some money in the long run by doing this.
What about benefits?
Well, we would have paid, if I may, please. We would have paid the sale, we would have paid taxes, we would have paid FICA, we would have paid all of those with the 2 part-time positions regardless. So that isn't going to change anything. That's not going to change anything. I know there's, I don't believe, frankly, that it's going to cost us a whole lot. If any, I think it's going to cost us less.
So let's go.
I'm ready. Look at it.
Oh, I'm getting some background noise. I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah.
Everybody can mute, please.
Yeah. And like I said, we did an analysis and either Mike or Rochelle, if you want to chime in, that's fine, or John. But I don't believe it's going to cost us more. We've already budgeted it. We'll have to pay those taxes regardless. If it was 2 part-time versus 1 full-time. So
you're talking about salary versus hourly wages, right? So if you go to a full-time, this would be a salaried position.
Right.
So and I did send you all the numbers, and it is going to cost a little bit more.
I will address Bob's question. As far as the court goes, 4 years ago when I started, an average court day, a heavy court day, was 70 people. This past court day, I had close to 140. It's doubled in 4 years. And I'll say this, 4 years ago, we needed a full-time clerk. And I've asked for a full-time clerk for 4 years. And this year, it's we already had the part-time, and then we got the additional part-time. It just makes sense to take the next step. Again, been asking for it for 4 years. It's been a need. As an example, Canton and Potsdam are very close, similar townships. We are much busier than the town of Potsdam, and they actually have 2 full-time clerks and 1 part-time clerk. So, the need is there. It's been there. And, Messina is #1 is the busiest court in the county. We're tied for #2 with the city of Ogdensburg, and they've got 3 full-time clerks over there. So it's just a step that we have to take. It's growing pains. I understand that. But our paper load is been increased exponentially for the last 2 years with the changes in the laws that the state has done.
Thanks, Mike. But back to the two part-timers costing maybe even less money than a full-timer with benefits. I don't understand that math when somebody's part-timers don't get health insurance, and I'm assuming either through a buyout or health insurance, that's going to need to be tacked on, including our contributions towards retirement also, right? Potentially. So like, there will be other costs, additional costs come with full-time employment. I just want to be clear about that. That's all.
And I did send the numbers to the board for review. And again, it depends on the health insurance of the person that the justices are thinking about. And if there is no health insurance needed, there is a $1,200 buyout. So we're talking, you're going from $34,580 up to $39,462. So there is additional cost. So are we in agreement that we want to move forward with this and that a budget amendment will be presented at the next meeting? Everybody in agreement?
Yes.
Bob Washoe, you're shaking your head. Bob Sanamore, yes. John Tayo?
Yes.
Jim?
I got one other question with regard to this. How do I handle that? Yeah. So they just hired a part-time position. They want a full-time position. If this gets approved, how does this work? Is the person that's currently in the part-time position going to be able to just go into the full-time position, or are you going to have to re-advertise for a full-time position and re-interview?
Justices, did you want to?
I mean, if you're offering a full-time position to a part-time worker, I don't see where you have to re-interview. They're already working. You're just increasing their hours.
She is willing to take the full-time position and wants the
yes.
full-time position.
That's correct.
Yeah. And see, I guess I'm not up enough on that stuff so basically, if this moves forward, then the person that just got hired can move into that position, and I assume must be willing to move into that position.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
They'd have to be willing to. Yes.
It's handled like a promotion.
I would agree with you, Bob. Absolutely.
I didn't hear Bob's comment. I'm sorry.
I said it would be handled like a promotion.
And it's my understanding, I would have to confirm this with her, but I'm under the impression she does not desire or need the health insurance, but we have to obviously confirm that, but I know a conversation was held about that.
Okay. All right, so it looks like we have a direction on that item. All right, and that'll be on the next board agenda. All right, thank you, everybody. Highway time accrual payouts. So as you remember, we passed a resolution at the end of last year regarding payouts of time accruals for elected officials. So we have two. We have Kelvin Rose. The payout total amount was $14,562.38. And so what we need to do is have a memorandum of understanding authorized by the board, and what this money will be allocated against is his health insurance contributions until it is exhausted. And then he would have to kick in on his own health insurance contributions. So you've all received a copy of the MOU on Kelvin Rose regarding this buyout. So I need a motion to for you to allow me to sign this memorandum of understanding with Kelvin.
So moved.
I second.
Moved by Bob Washoe, second by Bob Sanamore. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried. The next one is the memorandum of understanding with Stephen Smith. As we know, he's been with the Highway Department for 15 years, and then he is newly elected as the highway superintendent. And the payout is for sick time at a total of $9,392.40 at time of his retirement. And in order to qualify retirement, he would have to serve 20 years as a full-time employee with the town, be at least 55, retired directly from the town, and been granted a retirement benefit from the New York State Employees Retirement System. So I need authorization to be able to sign that MOU with Stephen Smith.
So moved.
Moved by Bob Washington, second by John Tile. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Carrie.
I'll abstain on this one.
Okay, so one abstention. Did you get that, Heidi? Jim Smith abstains. All right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Because everybody knows he's my nephew, so that's why I'm abstaining.
Full disclosure. Okay, thank you, Jim. All right, number 8, the secret review of Minor Street Road project. We're going to table that. Number 9, appointment of records access officer and records appeal officer. There is a resolution. Heidi, could you just pull that up real quick, please? Okay, so this is appointment of the Town Records Access Officer, the RAO, and Town Records Access Appeal Officer. Whereas the Freedom of Information Law set forth in Article 6 of the Public Officers Law 84-90 is designed to ensure public access to government records. And whereas the Records Access Officer is responsible for ensuring appropriate agency response to public requests for access to records, and the Town Clerk is the Records Management Officer and custodian of town records and should be designated as the Records Access Officer, and the Town Supervisor designated as the Town Records Access Appeal Officer. And now therefore be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Canton hereby appoint the Town Clerk as the RAO and Town Supervisor as the Records Access Appeal Officer. I need a motion to pass this resolution.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by John Tyo. Any further discussion? Any questions, concerns? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the last item on the agenda is public comment. We're here to listen. Is there any public comment at this point? If so, please let us know. I do not see anyone. Heidi, do you? No? Okay, with that being said, thank you everybody for coming. We do need to go into executive session. The justices will join us as requested to go into executive session for matters pertaining to the employment of a particular person. And we also need to talk about proposed acquisition, sale, and lease of real property. I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All right, moved by Bob Washoe, second by Jim Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carrie. Everybody else, thank you very much for coming. Have a wonderful night, and we'll go from there. So Heidi, you can